Hello everyone, I'm Dalton.
And I'm Clinton.
And this is the LA Do Podcast.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the LA Do Podcast, where we talk about all things, from movies to video games to comics
to music
and everything in between. I am one of your co-hosts, Clinton, and today Dalton is not here. With me today is Ethan.
Howdy.
So we're doing a music episode today. We haven't done one for, I'd say, nearly 3 years. We did a Avenged Sevenfold episode, which now is outdated, as they put out a interesting new album this year.
You put it a whole lot nicer than I would have.
I'm trying my best here. But anyway, so we did that, and I guess we just didn't have any more ideas of music. We just kind of were like focusing on the comic movies and stuff like that for this channel, and then I know we were focusing a lot on the wrestling channel. But we decided the other week, we're like, we should probably do another couple music ones to kind of see how people would like it. So that's what we're deciding to do today. Today we are looking at one of Ethan's favorites, Fit For An Autopsy. Now, Ethan, can you tell us a little bit about Fit For An Autopsy?
Fit For An Autopsy is... it would be classified, I would say, as deathcore with death metal tones in there. Started in 2011 out of New Jersey, even though only a couple of them are from New Jersey. They're kind of spread out. Been going on strong. They've got 6 albums out right now. Hopefully 7's coming soon. Please, Lord.
Well, didn't the most recent one come out like last year?
Yes. They drop one every 2 years.
Okay, I was going to say, that's a bit of a rush. But
If everything serves well based on the past, I should be looking at a single here at the end of this year.
That's fair.
If it reflects correctly.
That's fair, yeah.
So, I don't know, I like my music.
Yeah.
My new music.
But before we get into our ranking of the albums, I will say, I'm going to be completely honest, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest fan of this genre of music. Not because I think it's bad. It's just one of those things where I'm kind of new into heavier music. I started listening to more frequent heavy music in like 2019, so I'm still new to it. When it comes to this sort of like genre, I don't know if they're technically this genre, but the only one I really get into is Whitechapel. I don't know if are they close enough?
That would fall under the same one, in my opinion.
It's definitely closer than like, you know, more of your new metals and stuff that of course we listen to from the mid 2000s and stuff. So I definitely say that Whitechapel is close enough for this one.
Which Whitechapel's where I started when I got into the deathcore type, and death metal was Whitechapel and Revocation. So
yeah.
It just kind of evolved from there.
Right. So with that being said, with why I don't know too much about the genre. So we had a week to kind of come up with our ideas for this episode. This, my opinion personally, is from one listen through completely. So if they're very unpopular opinions, I'm sorry. Like I said, it's just one of those things where I only had so much time. I gave myself only so much time to figure it out. But, I mean, I'm trying my best here. You know, I'm winging it, and I did try to give it my best shot. So, I know Ethan's probably going to have a more descript reasoning for why he likes or dislikes something. But I still think I held my own with trying to figure it out. So, we don't know each other's list and kind of like what we like and dislike. We didn't really speak about it, so...
Yep. So we're learning each other's lists as you were learning the list. But I'm excited to see where yours ended up. I think I have an idea on a couple of them.
Something's telling me we are close to the same. I know we did discuss that earlier today, because you were kind of like, oh, I think maybe we're close, but maybe not. I don't know. I'm kind of scared we're identical, but maybe. I'm not sure.
I don't think that we're identical. I think I know I think our top 4 I think the list is going to be pretty much there. I know
Right.
5 and 6 more than likely are going to be the same.
Yeah.
I would say when it comes to 1, 2, and 3, there's going to be a big toss up there.
We'll see. But like I said, he's more in depth with his reasonings and his taste. Where me, it's just kind of me trying to get into it and doing something that I know Ethan likes. And I did enjoy what I heard, so I guess that is a plus. But with that being said, we'll go ahead and just get right on into it. I'll go ahead and start with mine, and then we'll go to Ethan after. Unless it's the same one, then we'll just talk about it together. But my number 6 is The Process of Human Extermination.
Told you. Called it. I knew it was coming.
So with this album, for me, it's, if you have listened to our Avenged Sevenfold episode, I know it's a bit outdated, and I know I didn't go into as much depth as I would now, but this one to me is like they're sounding the seventh trumpet for the Avenged Sevenfold. It's early, it's rough around the edges, the sound's not 100% there, so that's, I think, the reason why it does land closer to the bottom for me. Also, I know in this kind of genre of music, a lot of it's more of like the lyrics are a little bit more angry, they're a little bit more like intense. But once you get to a point where you're just kind of like, I don't know how to describe it, like so dark it's just like not enjoyable for me. That is where this particular album lays for me. Not the rest of it, but this one in particular.
Yeah, it was. They kind of dive into similar topics throughout their entire discography to a degree, but it seems the best way I would say it comparative to how they do it now is two-dimensional. The vocabulary expansion, and then their with the music and their chord progressions, it just seemed kind of like, here's the sound that we want, let's make that sound. It wasn't okay, so this is what we're trying to get across, let's finally tune that.
Yeah.
As obviously, it's their inaugural album, there's going to be some fine-tuning and evolution that needs to occur, but, I mean, the only one I really go to on that one's The Conqueror, and the rest are just kind of there for me.
Yeah, and kind of the same with me is just like, I did put in my notes, like, I was looking to kind of come back, give this a second listen, because the first time I really disliked it. But then looking back at it as I was going through, I'm like, it's not going to stand with the rest of them. Not even close. So why bother with going back right now and trying to give it another listen where I know it's probably just going to still end up at the bottom. So I don't think there was a single song that I fully enjoyed. Now, I'm not saying there's not parts, but not a single song stood out to me on this particular album. So,
yeah, I mean, The Conqueror, like I said, which, every once in a while you just need that song that gets you. Sometimes this music is for when you're in that aggression mood, and that's the song I go to. It's loud and it's heavy and it's in your face, and that's what I like about that one. The rest of them are a little too in your face and surface leveled, we'll say, for lack of a better term, for me. So that's where I'm at on that one.
Yeah. But, so that was a short and simple one.
Yeah.
But going on to number 5, for me personally, it's Hellbound.
Yep, I told you. 5 and 6 are the same.
So, I did have a few notes when it comes to songs on this one, so I didn't dislike every song like the first one for sure. But one thing I did note was that I felt that the great gift of the world was one of my favorite openers. I said that I think that it improved on the first album by not just giving gritty noise and having a little bit of more experimental drumming and guitar on it and stuff like that. And I think that the vocal work started to come along from that point with the opener there, and also with the rest of the album.
You pretty much hit the nail on the head. It's to me, it's what the first album would have sounded like if they would have finely tuned it a little bit more. You got more crisp vocals on there. The lyrics, have a little bit more depth, which I'm always looking for lyric depth in this kind of music. Like, even the Pissed Off Rager songs that you go to, I still enjoyed those. Dead in the Dirt, I still go to all the time. There's Nothing Here Worth Keeping. Do You See Him? Those are, top songs that I constantly find myself going back to. You could definitely see the improvements they made over the previous album.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I was listening to it, one thing I did say was that Dead in the Dirt, the song specifically, I said that it kept the gritty sound of the original, but improved on it in the best way possible. And then you had songs like Tremors, which I thought was okay, but then the breakdown near the end was pretty good. I thought it was good with the guitar and stuff like that. Songs like Mother of the Year had a unique sound throughout the verses, but then for me, when it came to the chorus, it was kind of a Gojira sound. Liked that a lot. I've kind of compared those two a lot during the listening through most of the later albums too. I kind of enjoyed those more than the first one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. The Tremors thing, you're gonna get some looks on Tremors. People love Tremors, but me as someone who listens to Fit For An Autopsy very heavily on the daily and has been listening to them for years, you hit it nail on the head with your listen through on the songs that you've described this far. With mine,
for sure. I would say like you said with the Tremors thing, I don't dislike it.
Right.
I will say there were two songs that I said like they're not my favorite, but I understand if people liked it, and I think it was the final two, the Children of the Corn Syrup and the Travelers. Both
I knew Children of the Corn Syrup was going to be one of those.
They were fine. I think I kind of just wasn't vibing with it like some of the other songs. I think that was the only.
It fell back into the first album kind of vibe.
I guess that's fair.
When I listen to them, it kind of fits that category of, not as finely tuned as the rest of the album. In my opinion, I feel like it's just those two songs are not up to par with the rest of the album.
That's fair. Yeah.
But definitely a huge step up from the first album.
Yeah. But the best thing possible is that from here on out, the albums do get a huge improvement on the sound and just the overall experience listening, in my opinion.
I mean, with each album, you're going to see the evolution of how they're finely tuning, their progressions and how the music's coming together and how the lyrics are telling a story. They get a whole lot better. It's like from this album, the rest of them, it just completely skyrockets, in my opinion. You add Joe Bad into the band now, new vocalist, which Joe Bad is a magnificent vocalist. Definitely an improvement on there. He's the versatility he's got, which we'll discuss later on. It's cash money, for lack of a better term. Cash money.
But moving on to my number 4, it is Absolute Hope, Absolute Hell.
Yeah, I figured that was going to be roughly where yours goes. Mine's not that, so go ahead.
So, beginning with the first track on this album, which is the self-titled track, I thought it was a good opener. I thought that the sound that I got from this song was the sound I was hoping for from the first two albums, and I finally got it in the opener. Good catchy parts on this song, not that bad at all. I think my favorite song from this album, and it might be I don't know where people lead with this one, but my favorite song from this album is Ghost in the River.
Okay.
I said it fixes the errors I saw in the previous songs on the album. Like I was talking about earlier, there's certain lyrics that I'm just like not a fan of. It's like the super, just, I don't know how to describe it, negative bullcrap. I don't know how to really describe it. This one, the lyrics aren't positive. They're still pretty negative, but they're not singing the exact same stuff that they were in some of the previous albums, stuff like that. There's actually some more diversity in the lyrics and stuff like that, and I appreciated that. One of my favorite things that I think I remember adding in was that, lyrics aside, the instrument work on Swing the Axe was like my favorite thing on the album entirely. I just thought it was very creative in the way they did it. Like I said, maybe it's not the best picks in the world, but I think that, this album was an improvement but it didn't give me the same feel as the next three. So
My number 4, and this is gonna be, I can feel the hate looming in the background, is The Great Collapse.
okay,
Actually, The Great Collapse, I love. The remaining 4 albums I love, and if you were to give me one, I'm not going to complain by any of them. But going song for song is just, it doesn't rank up to the other songs that I find myself going to very frequently. There's great songs. I go to Heads Will Hang, not the Black Mammoth, Black Mammoth. You know, songs like those constantly find myself going back to. There's some great songs on there. Too Late, Empty Still, all of those are magnificent songs. It's just not quite the level as the other 3 albums in my head, if that makes sense. I know it's kind of a vague term, but you know, it's just not quite there in terms of where I have the other 3 at.
I guess that's fair, yeah. So, moving on to my number 3. We're getting to the halfway mark. My number 3 might come as a shock to Ethan, because it is The Great Collapse.
Whoa! Really?
So, this album I went into thinking it was going to be... I thought maybe it would be my number 1. I don't know why, but it's just one of those things where I thought maybe it was a chance, but I also hadn't heard it yet, so I was like, well, we'll figure it out from here.
I was almost certain that was going to be your number 1.
So, we'll start off with Black Mammoth is probably my favorite song from Fit. I think Ethan showed me that back in 2020, and I've still listened to it. It's a very good song. Some other songs that I had heard on this album, not before, but once I got to it, I thought Hydra was a good listen.
Hydra's a magnificent listen.
I'd say it was a good example of what my listen taste for a song would be. It's being dark, but not feeling completely hopeless in the lyrics. The production was the best thing on this album. I thought that they improved a lot on this from the previous few. Like, for example, I know for some people like the more less produced stuff, and I respect that entirely. I completely agree with some stuff. But, like, between Hellbound and Absolute Hope, Absolute Hell, if the production value for the third one that I mentioned, if it wasn't better, if it was just as gritty, probably Hellbound would have been my number 3.
Understandable.
However, I do enjoy them in this particular band having a little bit more production. Not overproduced, but not underproduced either. The grittiness can still be there with some extra money being put in to kind of smoothen some stuff out. This album had that. So I definitely enjoyed it for that reason, but then there were other songs where I just didn't feel it. Another one I had was I enjoyed the song When the Bulb Burns Out, but I didn't like the first 40 seconds of the climate change spiel. I mean, I understand that's kind of the direction they were going with that, and that's fine. I understand that, but it was one of those things where I just felt like the lyrics could have spoke for themselves. They didn't need the little... they didn't need the thing at the beginning.
Which, that's kind of what they did for the rest of the songs.
Exactly.
Because, they all hold their surface. They convey that message without having the intro. Heads Will Hang. I don't know if did you watch music videos to any of these?
Didn't watch any music videos, but I got the idea of it when I listened to it. That was also a pretty decent one as well.
War and oppression, encapsulated in that, and they're providing you with the extra depth in the story of, it's not just barefaced hopelessness. It's, here's what's going on. It's basically, it's not good. We need to correct ourselves. This is, they convey that message. Same thing with Hydra.
Yeah,
it's the same sort of, here's the problem. Black Mammoth, Dakota Access Pipeline. look what it's doing.
Yeah.
Bringing awareness to it. It's you don't need the extra.
And
I agree with that.
the actual song was good, and I vibe with the message completely. But it's the same issue I had with "Exist" in from the stage from Avenged Sevenfold. It's like, why do we need the Neil deGrasse Tyson stuff in it? It speaks for itself, the song. So I was like, that's the same thing with me. And then the only other note I really had, because all the other songs were fine, obviously they were good enough to end up on my number 3. But to me, at the time of listening, maybe I'd have a different opinion when I give these another try. The song "Empty Still" was probably my least favorite song out of all the listening, other than the first album, I would say, because all of those I didn't like. But from the album Hellbound to the most recent, this was probably my least favorite song. I think that he took the lyrics that I'm referring to as just completely just so negative. It's like, why are we listening to? I know that's a thing I keep harking on, but it's sometimes it's just not for me. It took the feelings I had from the first album and some of the third album and just threw it in this one song. And I kind of just thought that wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. So I guess that's why it kind of kept it from being, it definitely kept it from being from number 2. But with that being said, some of the higher points like Black Mammoth and Hydra keep it at number 3 for sure.
My number 3 is Absolute Hope, Absolute Hell. This is an album that I continuously, all the time, find myself going back to. Salt Wound was one of the first songs by Fit For An Autopsy that I ever listened to. It's got the devastation in there, but that's the term of when you say it's devastating and depressing, but that's when I'm looking for the devastating and depressing, that's more along the lines of what I'm looking for in this genre of here's what's going on. Murder in the First, that one's still to this day one of my favorites, one of the best breakdowns I've ever done. Magnificent, 10 out of 10. This album was just purely anger. I'm angry. Let me tell you why. And I think, comparative to their new stuff, it doesn't go as into detail or puts as much of a story around it. It's pretty direct, pretty blunt. It hits you right in the face of, hey, I'm pissed off. Let me tell you why I'm pissed off.
Yeah, I agree. And I do want to jump back, not to get in the middle of what you were saying, but jump back kind of when I was talking about this album. I did leave out some stuff that kind of you hit the mark on. And that was the fact that I felt like some of these albums could have used a little bit more story to it. Like, you were just talking about Salt Wound and Murder in the First. I wish there was a little bit more story to it. But I respected the instrument work, for sure, a little bit more. And same goes for Storm Dreams and some parts of Mask Maker. It's like they were fine. They were good stuff. But it was also like, I don't know, I kind of vibed more with the storytelling of some of the other albums. But I know that's more of your vibe with this album and stuff like that. So that's why I'm saying is that's where the split is.
I agree with where you're coming from. Yeah. I understand it. For me, I would say, again, I know I said this for the first 2 albums, but it's more rounded off. If you look song by song, compare the two. Look at Dead in the Dirt. Look at Wither. It's the same song, but it's got a little bit more depth to it.
Yeah, I agree.
And, if it comes to going back to those 2, I'm going to go to Wither. False Positive, I think, is what, if you were wondering what the whole album was about and you didn't go to the title track, I think False Positive gives you the story of this is what this album's about.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it, pretty much.
I agree, yeah. I do remember that one being kind of like what you're saying. So, my number 2.
This is where it gets juicy.
I think you're gonna respect it. My number 2 is Oh What the Future Holds.
Let's go!
So with this album, I thought it was close. It was extremely close to number 1, but it had some flaws. So one of the things was I thought the chorus of Shadows, the song, was one of my favorites that I heard throughout the entire discography. I really enjoyed some of the clean vocals on this. I know that's not what this genre is really all about, but I did enjoy it a little bit. Songs like The Two Towers and stuff like that, I did enjoy the more clean vocals on it, and it was kind of a change that I enjoyed.
Which, that's what you're seeing in this genre, is the genre's kind of divulging a little bit more. You've got the more evolved where it's going to clean vocals more, and here's the storytelling, and then you've still got the old, let's hammer it in their face and mosh around for hours. That kind of thing. See the split. Like, early in the year, me and my brother went to go see the Acacia Strain Fit For An Autopsy. They were co-headlining. I think that concert truly encapsulates the two different ones. Like, a lot of people love the Acacia Strain. That's not for me. They don't have, that's your, let's get in the pit and tear each other up.
Yeah.
Then there's Fit For An Autopsy. It's heavy, it's in your face, but it's got good message, it's got good story. I think, where they're going evolutionary wise with the band, I like it. I like the clean vocals in that as well.
Yeah.
So it's also my number 2, partially because the number 1 is untouchable, in my opinion, for any album that they will ever produce ever again. That's just me. Songs that when they released their singles, I was on the edge of my seat. When they released Far From Heaven, I was counting down the minutes until they released another one. Then they released Pandora. And I was like, oh my God, I can't wait.
Yeah.
And then that whole album dropped, and I listened to that thing front to back. In my opinion, I like the clean vocals. Two Towers wasn't my favorite song on that whole album.
It wasn't my favorite, but it definitely, because the thing is, I made a point that, I like the clean vocals on that, but I enjoyed Pandora way more. So it was one of those ones where it was just good, and there was really not much to speak about it.
I have to know this one and the number 1 seed, which I didn't know our number 1 and number 2 were going to be exactly the same.
I told you you'd be surprised.
I am so surprised. But what was your favorite song off of Future? If you had to pick one.
Well, let me go through some of the notes I had, because I think Pandora is one of them, but there's also another one that I'll bring up. But there's a couple notes I had. This was the album I had the most notes of. So some of the things I also said was, and I'm reading off some of my notes, is that the first 40 seconds of Higher Level of Hate was fun with the little drumming, I don't know what instrument they were using. It sounded like bongos. It was fun. I enjoyed that. The rest of it wasn't the biggest fan of, but also was pretty good. I'd say it was a little bit better than some of the songs from the first 3 albums for sure. The song Collateral Damage also fit in the same boat with the little bit heavy lyrics, but still perfectly fine. First half of the song Savages I really liked, but the second half was a bit weird. Not bad necessarily, just weird.
My heart is broken.
Just weird. I didn't say it was bad. I did enjoy it. It's weird. The vocal, I think it was the vocal style I was kind of... I think that was the song.
The call out and the call back? Is that
that's what it was. But the breakdown near the end, magnificent.
Okay. I thought that's what you were referencing, and that's my favorite song on the entire album. And
it was pretty good.
That breakdown is, I don't know if it's my favorite. It's definitely up there. Savages, that's the gritty in your face. That's the epitome of looking for something that's pissed off. That is the epitome of what I look for in that song.
Yeah.
In that type of song is that song. That's the epitome in my opinion. Going on to other songs. I like how they opened. It was just, easy into it. And the album starts with a breakdown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just builds up, breakdown. Let's get this thing going. That's, in my opinion, that was the best way to start it off. When the whole album dropped and I heard that at first, that's when my jaw first dropped, and it stayed dropped throughout the entire album.
Yeah. Another song that I had to bring up with the notes was, for some reason, the isolated guitar at the beginning of the song Conditional Healing sounded like a Van Halen riff to me. I don't know why. It sounded a little different for sure. Maybe I'm the only person who thought. I thought it was funny, though.
I can see where you see that.
The other note I had for this, it just says spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. But that was the other note I had for that. And the final thing I'll say about the album was probably another one of my favorite songs other than Pandora, which was, I thought, the best closer for any of these albums. And I know it could be controversial, but I think it was The Man I Was Not. 6.5 minutes, I think it was, of just pure genius for me. Super sad. I just enjoyed it. I don't know what it was, but I just felt like that was the closer that did it for me for sure.
It's definitely one of the better ones. I don't know if I'd put it at the best one, but I could definitely see where you put it as the best one. It's up there. For me, if you take what's in our number one slot, C, I'm going to go ahead and mention that, and you take Future. They're similar albums as well, but one's more of a everything's f***ed up. You're going to have fun editing this. Everything's f***ed up, and I'm sad, and then there's everything's f***ed up and I'm angry. That's what you've got in the two albums. They're similar in my opinion, if you look at the structure of them. But I think you're right with the 6.5 minutes of pure genius when it comes to The Man That I Was Not. That song was that was the best closer that they could have come up with that album. It really, sent you off at the end of the album with, really gets you. It's thought provoking, in my opinion. Yeah. It's thought provoking. You reflect. That song gets you reflecting in general, and then you reflect on the album that you just listened to, and it really just seals it off and encapsulates the entire album.
Yeah. But with that being said, because I know Ethan is beyond eager here, Ethan, what is both of our number ones?
The Sea of Tragic Beasts. Oh, that makes me so happy. Oh, man.
So, I only have a few notes here. Obviously, because it's my number one, I would say in some way, shape, or form, I enjoyed all 10 songs on this. Was it 10, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it wasn't 11. 11 was
10.
Something else. I enjoyed all 10 songs on this, but there were some notes I did put out. It's only a few, so I'm going to go ahead and go through that, and then I'll let you go, because I know this is like one of your favorite albums of all time.
Yes.
So, here's some of the notes I had. I said, first off, the self-titled opener was such a change in style. Caught me off guard at first, but in a good way. No Man Is Without Fear kept the ball rolling with the rest of the album. It went from a kind of a change, and then it just kept going with just good songs from that point on. Your Pain Is Mine is also a highlight. I thought that the slightly clean vocals in it was pretty good as well. And one of my favorite songs that I got from this album and in general was Mirrors. I don't know why, it just kind of stuck with me as one of my favorites for sure.
You're not alone in the Mirrors. Everybody loves Mirrors. If you were to ask my brother to put his top three, it's probably going to be up there. I think that's his favorite on that album.
It was pretty good.
It's a magnificent song. That was one of their singles for this one. It was, you want to talk about wonderful storytelling? That song, if you watch the music video, I know you didn't watch any, watch the music video with it. It really encapsulates the story. Like, when it comes to song and let's make a music video for it, that one was the best they handled that. I think it truly just, put the story together perfectly. That song is a magnificent song. Give me any song on this album, I take it tenfold over just about any song ever.
That's fair.
This song is far and beyond. Starting with The Sea of Tragic Beasts, I probably listened to that song 1,500 times in my life, which is a lot. It may be a lot to most people, or maybe not a lot. I've listened to that song quite a bit. That's one of my favorite songs ever. I know it's a little crazy to go, title track is your favorite, but
I would say that, because it was so different to me than all their other stuff, it stuck out like a sore thumb in the best way possible, for sure. So that, I definitely would agree. I understand why you've listened to that quite a few times. I think it's pretty good. But also, another good one was the closer.
Yes, oh my goodness. The first time I sat down and listened to Napalm Dreams, you just sit down, you put your earphones in, you truly let the music absorb into your skin. I cried. That is such a depressing song.
It is, yeah. That one was very close to the closer on the last album. They were very close to being just as good in quality and just as sad. I don't know. I think the other one just, I guess because it was longer, I believe. I don't know what the reasoning for that being a little bit more important to me. But this one was right there with me.
And at least for me, and I know this is how they wanted to convey it.
Mm-hmm.
It really was. I've been in these shoes and I felt this way. You know, it's nice to hear how I felt at one point expressed in music, because you look at general states of music, they really don't truly convey the raw emotion that you just feel sometimes. And you look to cling, at least for me, I look to cling for music when I'm feeling certain emotions. And that song just encapsulated that truly depressing. That's the depressing, we're doomed in a completely different manner than any of the other albums that we've talked about.
Yeah.
I think that truly just sets the precedence of this is truly depressing. You know, I don't feel okay.
Right.
And I think most people have felt that way a time or another, and some people have gone through it a little bit harder than others. It's when I was going through that, that's a song I leaned on a lot, and I truly felt it. It truly, you know, it connected with me. It's just one of those songs you can go to and you can really feel the emotion they put out for display.
Yeah.
Songs like Warfare, I think message-wise, that's where I stand politically. Is, you know, Warfare, they don't care about you anyway. Why are you going through the effort? They don't care.
Yeah.
That's what that song is. It doesn't matter where you stand politically. Absolutely no one cares what you're going through when it comes to politics. I think that was magnificent. Your Pain Is Mine, I think that's another example of good storytelling, you know. That's the song, actually, I got my girlfriend to start listening to Fit For An Autopsy on, was that one, and Napalm Dreams. Actually, those were the two that got her going. She enjoys both of those very much. I showed her a clip, actually, of Joe Bad. He does Twitch.
Oh, okay.
And he did that live on Twitch one time, and I showed her that clip, and she just loved how how the end's got the clean and then it transitions into the harsh. She fell in love with that part, and she loves that song. So, and it's magnificent. I do like the transition too. That song is magnificent. I think that song was one of the many songs that truly display the versatility that Joe Bad does have on a track.
Yeah.
Songs like No Man Is Without Fear, I go back to the No Man Is Without Fear quite a bit. Mirrors. Even the songs that are lesser talked about, Unloved, that one's a great one. You know, Unloved is just, it's pissed off, but in the depressing pissed off, it's kind of the in-between mix.
Yeah.
The song was just magnificent. Yeah. More, you want to talk about a great breakdown, in my opinion, because that song it ranks lower on the terms of the other songs on that album. It's just a 10 out of 10 album for me. I've got 2 10 out of 10 albums that I've ever listened to, and the other one's Chris Cornell.
Yeah.
So if that doesn't encapsulate my music, then I don't know what will. But that song has just got an absolutely disgusting breakdown. I don't know what your thoughts are on that breakdown. Or on that song in general.
Well, it's one of those ones I didn't write any notes on, but I do remember most of the just instrument work on this album entirely being top tier. I think that was a big reason as well. So I would have to listen to it again, but due to the fact that I did choose this at number 1 for lyrics and instrument, it was probably just as good as, you know, it was probably one of the better ones for sure. I wish I could remember off the top of my head. I apologize, but I do remember most of the instrument work on this one being quite phenomenal. So
let me ask you, out of all of the Fit For An Autopsy songs, what would you, if you could, rank your top songs? You don't have to necessarily be in order. I would like to see a top 1 out of you.
Okay.
And then just, you know, some of your more favorites out of all the albums.
So how many would you be, like, how many songs in particular?
You know, just a few. Nothing in particular. Just, you know, what was your biggest songs out of all of them? So I know Black Mammoth is up there.
Black Mammoth is definitely number 1. I'm not going to rank these out, but that is definitely, for me, top tier. Napalm Dreams up there, as well as, I would say Hydro is up there as well, and I'll give you one more. I'm trying to think of which ones. I know it's going to be on the most recent album. I mean, it's probably got to be The Man That I Was Not. Okay. I mean, those were, I would say out of the 4, those were probably my favorites. If I had to choose a 5th one, it may be Warfare. It's probably up there too. That or Mirrors would also be up there. It's one of those things where I remember a bunch of songs, but then it's also like, okay, but if I had to if I really had to break it down and know which ones I like,
you'd have to go back and listen to it.
Top 5 for sure is the ones that I just named.
Those
so.
Those are relatively up there for me. Those are all magnificent songs. My top ones are "The Sea of Tragic Beasts," the title track. I don't care.
That was great too.
That album starts off punching you in the face with that opening breakdown, and it's magnificent. "Savages" is another one. I'm trying to bounce around and not just go one for each album. What's my favorite for each album? "Wither" and "Murder in the First," those are all up there for me. Give me any song from C. Those are all up there. If I had to pick one outside of C to be up there, I would say probably "Warfare." I would say it would probably be my number 2, or "Your Pain Is Mine." So.
But with that being said, thanks for kind of pitching this band, Ethan, and just kind of letting us get an idea of maybe what other bands we can do in the future. I definitely know we could probably do more of the same type of genre for sure.
Absolutely, and I chose this band not just because it's my favorite band, but I feel like with you, starting to get into Whitechapel, I feel like it would be a good one for you to, dive into and really understand what portion of the genre I listen to, kind of expand on that a little bit. So I thought it was a good little band to throw in there for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for listening. If you are a big Fit for an Autopsy fan, what are your favorite songs? Let us know in the comments on YouTube. My name is Clinton. You can follow me on Instagram at ClintonWells2001.
And you can follow me at EthanThompson._.
Thank you for listening, and we will see you next time.